Hello, so I've been looking forward to History Collection for quite some time because they're bringing back G era cards and it makes things more interesting again because that era was fun. And we've even seen with Strad deck sets coming back, which gave me some hope that they were going to do more with G. And I'm glad I had some hope there. I wasn't disappointed in that regard, but there is one thing that's disappointing me, and this is the reason why I'm making this video because I think it needs to be called out. It's really bad. So, Harmonics Messiah, you only get a couple in a case. This is an important card. Every clan needs to play it. Every deck needs to play it. Why should it play it? Because there's no opportunity cost. You don't take anything out of your deck, out of your main deck. You don't have to worry about mulliganing or bricking. There's no argument against playing it. The only thing you're taking out is a card from your G zone, which will be the most situational card, because the situation card will come up less than you going second and getting a free 20k shield via a passive G zone ability in Harmonics Messiah. So that's a bit of a problem because everyone needs it. We've got promos, which does help a bit. But the thing is, I don't even know how many of those are around, and they do seem to be getting quite a bit of value. And even then, Legion era in the English game, they meshed a whole bunch of sets, making it less desirable. But at the same time, in Japan, who were ahead of us, they had the Stride era coming, and people already looking at those sets and thinking, "Oh wow, maybe I should like step out from the game for a bit." So it wasn't exactly the greatest of times. I don't have any sort of statistical data or anything to back this up, but I think it's possible that that might be an extra bit of a hit for us on the international game, if that's the case. So that's also something else to kind of be worried about. Now, in Japan, they had a few Harmonics Messiahs, and then we wait to see what would be in English, and unfortunately, it's not much higher. They did increase the SP pull rates, though, I've heard, so that's at least an improvement. But the Harmonics Messiahs, only a couple of Ks. Now, that is very unethical. I think there's definitely been a push for that from certain decision makers who probably don't have that much regard for the players or the game, and probably just see this set as a money maker where they're just looking to print some money because for every case, which is a grand, by the way, that gets spent, only a couple of people get to play premium. So that's really bad. That's such a hard sell. And I say get to play premium in the sense of actually feeling like they're playing the game properly. Because let's be real, if you're not playing Harmonics Messiah, it just doesn't feel right. It feels like you've actually just been priced out of the game. And the fact that this has all been backed up just by simply dropping a ground in the case just feels kind of dirty as well, like for a practice. It's unethical, it looks bad, and we've seen some products which don't have the best look. I mean, for example, the premium deck sets, for example, they haven't had the best look. Why are there like two decks, which other card games sell for a lot cheaper, being sold for like what, over 100? And yeah, you can say, well, because they have value cards, except it shouldn't be the company that makes the game selling cards for an artificial price. That artificial price is a result of the actual sealed product itself and the secondary market's demand forces. So the supply and demand aspect. So that's not something they're supposed to directly cash in on. I mean, for a company to kind of come out and say it directly is a bit doesn't exactly end up being a good look. But Harmonics Messiah is kind of a bit similar to that. I mean, there've been other cases like in Magic Gathering, they've had a famous anniversary set which was being priced at a very high price, which doesn't have many cards in it. That's artificial pricing in the sense of actually cashing in yourself, setting the price, fixing it, and raking in that huge profit margin. So these are like really kind of like desperate cash grabs and don't really exactly look good. But I think players have to push back on that stuff because if your game was plagued with that, that's horrible. And if you're passionate about these games, if you care about the games that you're playing and the hobby, you don't want this kind of grubby behavior either on your games. So I do think Harmonics Messiah is actually one of the worst decisions that have ever been made because you're actually forcing a product onto players, but the product that's being forced is also very hard to get. So it's almost like a new entry barrier in a sense, which someone's actually kind of like lent me that line. I probably should use that as a title of the video maybe. And although I'm not going to talk too much about price, because to be fair, the prices might fluctuate. So maybe I shouldn't use that title for that reason. But the thing is, they are expensive, the Harmonics Messiahs. But to make it worse, they could even go up. Do you know why I think they can go up? Because if you think about it, you have a case, right? And you're cracking them for the Harmonics Messiahs. Everything else will tank. Think back to Bermuda Triangle when they first had the G-Clan booster. Do you remember Olivia? 4 in a case, right? And then you had everything else, which you had more copies of, Loris's and so on, right? They all tanked over time as people bought more and more and more. because everyone needed the Olivias. You needed 4 Olivias if you want to actually play the deck properly. So everything was cheap for a long time. Eventually, value side altering, Olivia got reprinted multiple times. The other lower rarity cards have actually ended up gaining a bit of value, except there were cases where they even got reprinted back down to the ground. So they were actually starting to become desirable at one point. But it's all like that kind of logic where if a certain chase cards become too demanded, then everything else will tank harder. And I think that's the problem with this set as well. Like, it's possible that maybe the Harmonics Messiahs will go up in price as well. So that's another problem as well with this set, and it's very unethical. So this needs to be called out. I'm a bit surprised how little noise there has been. I know there's been comments from people online. I don't think there's quite as many. I mean, I'm not sure it's fatigue, because obviously there's been quite a lot of this sort of back forward criticism. But the thing is, this criticism about Harmonics Messiah is different to most criticism, because this is not like one of those two-side things where, okay, I can understand that side of the argument. There's, with more nuances and so on, right? Because you can say about, let's say, another contentious topic, reprints, right? Not everyone's pro reprint, or even like the extent to how much a card should be reprinted. It's kind of controversial because you've got investors, you've got stakeholder groups. There's different perspectives, and people benefit differently of different things. If you don't have the cards, you benefit more. If you already invest in the cards, you feel like a loser, and that's why people don't like the idea of heavy reprinting in some cases, but other people might like it more. Obviously, then maybe the argument should be, maybe don't make cards so high value in the first place, which I think that's where more of the conversation should be around. And Harmonics Messiah is the latest card in addition to that list of cards that probably shouldn't have been this rare in the first place. And even if you have a reprint now, of course, some people aren't going to be happy about it, but I think we really need to address this. Like, this is something Bushiroad needs to do something about, because, and it's such a shame it's come down to this. I don't want to make this video. I don't really want to be using my channel to put something that's a bit more negative. I'd rather leave that to my own personal social media accounts where I'm just typing text. But yeah, this is not great at all, and obviously U-turn's not going to look good either. However, the situation right now is bad, and it urgently needs to be addressed for their own brand's sake, so they don't look and get perceived as a money grubby company, which other companies have done money grubby things. But the thing is with the Vanguard game is that there's a lot of goodwill and trust as well in the product, and this is just one of those cases which doesn't really reflect well. But obviously, some people might say, because there have been other instances which I know people aren't too happy about either when it comes to products as well. These are decisions made mainly in Japan, by the way. I mean, when it comes to the English side, the international game, Bushiroad staff are generally really nice. I've spoken to them, a lot of them in person over the years. I've gone to events and things. I do feel like they do as much as they can for the players. They're more pro player. I don't think they quite fit the whole bill of being grubby. Obviously, there's a whole deck set thing, but I think there's probably some more behind the scenes reasons why the Night Rose Pale Moon deck materialized the way it did. But I'm not gonna go too much into that. I don't think they are intentionally, or I think it's more of a Japan HQ problem. So it is kind of a shame to have to be a bit critical of an organization, but I don't believe it reflects like most people that work in the organization anyway. I'm sure like a lot of them are actually against this, I bet, anyway. And it is really bad for Premium, because Premium used to actually be seen as very accessible. With Revival Selection, which is an English product, by the way, international product, Revival Selection, it's quite like, some people may criticize. I wasn't a big fan personally of how some of the reprints were handled. I do think the quota system, having equal pull rates for everything, might have been a bit questionable, but regardless, I think it was a net social good. A lot of good came out of it because Premium was perceived as being accessible. It helped to dismiss the idea that it was expensive to get into, and we end up seeing a resurgence of the Premium format because of these sort of products that will come out, Premium 2020, as well as this set as well, which weren't too far apart from each other. So that really helped as well. Or was it Pecan Collection also followed after as well. So yeah, we've had all these sets, and there was a point where a lot of the decks were actually very cheap to build into, especially for a first-time player. But then what happened is scalpers, or Actually, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that because some people will dispute that term. But we've had cards from premium 2019 and 2020 which have shot up in price, and probably good for me because I actually have a bunch of those cards, and it's been a quite profitable set in a sense, which kind of helps because some of those D sets were pretty bad. Early D series, D set 3, oh my god, terrible. Lost so much value from that. So premium collections kind of filling up has kind of helped me make up for that. So then the thing with that is obviously the whole premium sets, cards going up in price. Progenitor Dragons are basically quite expensive now. They used to be cheap, and if you've already got the cards, you're doing good, but it's pretty bad when stuff is no longer in supply. People can't pick things up. There's no commercial product to open, so people can charge higher prices now on those older cards. And it's gotten worse now because Harmonics Messiah is an extra nail to the coffin on this idea that premiums actually become more inaccessible. So the game was very cheap just a few years ago, and now suddenly it's, if you're getting into it for the first time, you've got a massive barrier because everyone who's already in has already crossed the line, and the bridge has basically been burnt down behind them. And that probably needs to be addressed as well. And so there are some issues, obviously, but I hope this video at least encourages people to speak up a bit more when they see something that's unethical, which is what's going with Harmonics Messiah particularly. These things need to be called out because there are things that go on in industries like gaming industry. They've had loot boxes, which is nowhere near as bad. These things have had government regulation and banning. We don't have any proper government regulation. TCGs, at least I don't think so. In fact, it's very overlooked. You know, cryptocurrencies have had regulations. Governments are paying more attention to that. But you know what has been a black spot? And even Martin Shkreli, who, by the way, is famous for being a very dodgy, trying to milk people dry. He went after pharmaceutical companies, bought them out, sold drugs, flipped them over for a massive profit. That guy, right? I mean, we've seen quite a bit more attention being drawn towards card games, and we've even seen stores getting robbed. So there are other places people are finding to try and get a bit of, that might make for good financial transactions, but it's all going to probably start coming here. So I wouldn't be surprised if in some years' time there are more government regulations in card games, because it's starting to feel like they're getting a bit more in the mainstream now when it comes to being seen as valued items, which has always been a thing, but it's never been this bad. It's this crazy. Like, it's gone very over the top over the years. Like, card games have almost just gone in and invented new rarities and ratios and everything now, because there's more purchasing power as well among the audience as well. So there's that too, and people are into the whole selling, buying business, which is not quite as big as it used to be. So yeah, I hope that encourages, and yes, just call these things out. That's why this video has been made, and yeah, take care then. All right, bye.